In this video, part 2, I'm going to take you through a fully completed staff profile for a 50-bedded nursing home. So this table now is fully completed. So you have the senior care level 1, level 2, with their hourly rates, a number of those people on those hourly rates, care level 1, care level 2. Now in this case, our sister company employs carers to cover annual leave. It makes more sense to do this because annual leave is a set amount. Everyone's entitled to a set amount. And if it's managed properly, then with these extra staff, you're not needing to put extra staff on shift. They would literally be covering those who are on annual leave. And then in this case, there's 2 levels of apprentices because there's 2 hourly rates. And then finally, there's part-time staff. We call them level 2 because they're on £10.42. 3 of those working 3 hours per shift and 4 shifts a week. So in this case, full-time equivalent, how many days or shifts do the majority of FTE staff work each week is clearly 3.5. And how many hours do the majority of FTE staff work each week? That's 42 hours. So 3.5 times 12 because they're on 12-hour shifts. So you have 4 apprentices, as you see here, 43 non-apprentice staff, total number of shifts, total number of hours. You see down here you have these bin icons, so you can delete rows if you need to. And as you go along, you should save, just to ensure that all that information is safe. Agency, in this case, 2 agency staff, not a lot of agency being used here. £16 an hour, £14.50 an hour. Number of staff in this role is 1. Number of hours a shift is 12. 2 shifts a week, 24 hours. So there's actually not a lot of agency used here. And then the number of staff working on a particular day, a particular 24-hour period, is shown here as I showed before. Again, this isn't about your employed specialist care staff. This is your general staff that will be delivering the same kind of care to all the residents. So on a 24-hour period, you have 16 care staff delivering care for 192 hours. So that care allocation should be divided across each resident. Now for this example, nursing home, we put in a capacity of 50. So 192 divided by 50 is like 3.8 something. Turn that into minutes, and that's the equivalent of 3 hours 50 minutes that each resident can receive. Now you have to decide how much of that is actual care that the resident receives. So you need to take out of that the non-care duties, the paperwork, if you use carers for help in the kitchen or doing some domestic duties, you need to take out, when it comes to your quotes, that amount of time to see what it leaves for each resident. So I'll talk about that more when it comes to creating an individual quote. Now for specialist care in this case, there is care rate, annual care cover. So 11 extra carers are employed to deliver specialist care. So if none of the residents in this example nursing home needed any specialist care, then this would be 0 and you would simply have the 43 permanent and the 4 apprentices. But in this case, there are quite a few residents who need specialist care, and this provider needs to employ 11 extra carers to provide that specialist care, with 2 as annual leave cover for them. So that's 13. So overall, you're employing 60 carers. And you see here, total FTE care staff is 57.86. The reason being that up here, you employed some part-time staff, 3 part-time staff. So that's 211 half shifts a week, 2,430 hours. Looking at nurses, enter your nurses, nurse level 1, nurse level 2. They're separated because they're on different hourly rates. In this case, there's nurse assistants as well. Annual leave cover is 1 nurse. And there's another nurse assistant here. So we have a total of 9 nurses, 8.14 in terms of FTEs, because this nurse assistant works 2 shifts rather than 3.5. And here you have your total hours. Then you have agency nurses, and this is where, in particular, a blended hourly rate becomes more important, especially if you use a lot of agency nurses. Nurse staffing levels and nursing allowance. Now, unlike the care staff where we put in number of residents per care staff member as a ratio, we don't do that for the nurses. We simply say how many nurses on shift and the hours on shift, and hence the total staffing hours in the 24-hour period. And in this case, that means that in a 24-hour period, each resident is entitled to 1 hour, 12 minutes of nursing. And that's not a lot. If you consider all the paperwork that they have to do and sorting out the care plans and managing shifts, medication ordering, medication checking, quality assurance, and so on, well, this time, this 1 hour 12, probably takes up their non-care duties. And you see in this case, 12-hour shifts, 3.5, so the average number of shifts is 3.5, which is 42 hours, 3.5 times 12. And then you complete the other tables in exactly the same way. So in this case for kitchen, the number of hours per shift is 11, so the FTE hours is less. Housekeeping, they work 8-hour shifts. There's a part-time here, so there's 8 people in housekeeping, but the total FTE is 7.5. But the majority work 5 days a week or 5 shifts a week, so that's 5 here for the FTE, and 8 hours, so 5, 8 to 40, that's 40 hours. Administration is the same. And then you have your salaried staff, people like your registered manager, head chef, and so on. Their annual salary. But again, we want to work out FTEs and we want to work out extra employer costs and so on. So we still need to put in details such as what shifts they work. So 8-hour shifts for the registered manager, 5 days a week. Same for the head chef. Care managers, 12 hours, 3.5 shifts. Same for assistant care manager, clinical nurse lead. Finance HR manager is 8 hours, 5 days a week, as is the office person. So you have to decide here which is the number of average shifts worked each week and how many hours they work. And in this case, even though it's pretty even, I would still put in the 5 hours and the 40 because that works in your favor when it comes to annual leave, extra employer costs and so on. So you have 7.15. This example nursing home has 7.15 salaried staff. So overall, there are 98 employed staff, 93.05 FTE staff, and the average days or shifts an FTE works each week is 3.81 days or shifts. And then for each team, care, nursing, and so on, average weekly shifts or days, and the number of FTEs in each as a summary. And that is your staff profile. And as I say, it's so important that you get this right and take your time on this, because getting this wrong can have a huge financial impact on your care home, because your staff are by far your biggest cost. So it's so important you get this right so that the staff costs are worked out accurately, and from that your fees are worked out accurately. And when they're worked out accurately in this way, you'll be able to defend them against commissioners who object to paying the fees that you need. So then you save, and 2, employer costs.